Yes, it's nice to pretend, isn't it? It's like I have a beautiful room behind me as well. With Randstad, we've got offices in like 9 countries, and I've gone and I've got backgrounds from all the different countries. So I sometimes have people in Randstad second guessing of which office I might be in, and I'm like, no, actually, I'm just in Queensland. So clever these days. Selena's gone into the clouds.
Yeah, I'm up in the cloud. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Tina, yeah, it would be great to record tonight because quite a few people said they would love to be here, but they have classes on, so.
Yeah, no worries. So just let everyone know, which is now stating the obvious, but we are recording the session. So if everyone just needs to know that we are doing that.
Great, thank you. And welcome everyone from all over, all different parts of Australia. We have some of our students and some of our alumni here this evening, and we're really fortunate to have Carolyn Weiss from Randstad facilitating our session today. Jo introduced us to Caroline recently, and she's put together a fantastic presentation that will help us get a bit more savvy about how we use LinkedIn so that we can sort of expand our own profiles, but also help with the projects that we're doing and communicating the impact that we have. So Caroline, I'll hand the reins over to you.
Thank you. So Carolyn, but happy to just go with Kaz. So if you are chatting or putting anything into the chat, just call me Kaz. So as Selena mentioned, I work with Randstad. I'm a talent acquisition strategist. What that means is I collaborate with our clients and consultants to craft strategies to find the best candidates. But a significant part of that strategy revolves around branding. Our consultants, they need a successful professional brand. They need to be able to market themselves, and they need to engage in strategies that are going to influence their target market. And essentially it means that they're known in the market by people who they haven't even met yet. And it gives them a voice, and it gives them leadership, and it gives them recognition. So that's what we're going to look at today, how a digital brand can play a pivotal role in helping you achieve your goals. But before we get into it, there's always an important topic to quickly cover off, although not necessarily quickly, when we're doing anything online. The importance of maintaining your mental health in your online journey. This session is going to talk a lot about controlling your brand, but we also need to be mindful that what you cannot control is others. You cannot control their opinions. You cannot control what they do and what they say online. So you need to be kind to yourself. If ever you need to take a break from what you're doing in social media, do that. And obviously, if ever you need support, do go out and seek that. And something we'll talk about today as well is being authentic. So not being concerned about making a mistake or making an error online. That's actually something that other people can relate to. So it can be concerning and confronting, but often is a positive. On the slide, I've got all the topics that we're going to go through today to show you how you can use social media to strengthen your brand and promote your work and projects and causes that are important to you. Through it, I'm going to do a few practical exercises with you, so that'll give you time to actually start making some changes to your profile and to craft your message. And then there's going to be additional content and some checklists that you can use following this presentation to go through and refine your profile as you need to. I do have one favour to ask, and that is if you have any questions, please ask them. So if you open up the chat, you can pop your questions in there. And we are a nice sized group today, so feel free to respond to anyone else's questions if need be. I will try to keep an eye on it. And not just questions, if I say something that stands out to you or you have an observation based on what's being discussed, please pop that in the chat. The more engaged you are with this, the more you are going to get from this session. So let's get into the fun part. So I guess the main part of what we look at when we talk about having a brand on social media is what humans do naturally, and that is that we go and look for recommendations before we make any type of decision. We turn to friends, we turn to colleagues, and online we look at reviews. But when we seek recommendations, we're also judging whether we consider that source to be credible. So whether it's a trusted friend or a highly rated option, rated review online. And LinkedIn is really powerful in establishing your credibility. It can be achieved through your profile content. It can be achieved through your network of connections. It can be achieved through the content that you are sharing and any commentary that you provide. So essentially what you are saying and what you are doing. LinkedIn, something we'll also look at, actually has a recommendation feature, which is essentially a review of you professionally. So let's move on to reviewing where your current online brand is. So this is a question I always ask everyone to do. It's to have a look on Google if you haven't already and see what comes up. Most of us probably already know, I'm sure we've done it, but it's so important to know what is coming up. There's a risk that if nothing comes up, that people will form an opinion about you that may not be the opinion that you want them to have in a professional sense, or worse, they may actually forget that they were potentially interested in knowing more about you and they move on. On the flip side, if they come across something that's up to date, or if you have just Googled and you've come across something, does it harmonise with what your objectives are, and is it up to date? So are the results that they're going to find sufficient enough? So that's what we're going to look at today. It's how you can take control of that online reputation rather than let it just evolve on its own without direction. As I mentioned earlier about us looking at reviews and recommendations, this is where you can set the scene to build credibility and start to establish a level of trust with recipients. So is your LinkedIn profile a true reflection of your value? Ask yourself, how is your brand currently received? What do your peers and what do those that work with you say and think about you? And is that aligned with what you want to achieve? Which brings us to the next slide, and that's being very aware of what your goal is and what your objectives are. So as I go through these steps today, think about what do you want to achieve and what actions are going to help you achieve that. Are you looking to expand a network and find a wider audience? Are you aiming to connect with potential collaborators, partners, or supporters who share your vision? Are you wanting to keep your network informed about your projects and initiatives? Are you here to champion causes and spread word about topics? Are you planning to create your own content and share content and potentially be seen as a thought leader? These are the questions to ask yourself, and the answer might be more than one of these. It could be multiple, or there may be something that I haven't covered off that you want to achieve. And it's going to be different for everyone. But what's important is to have a goal, and every action that you do when you're using LinkedIn is aimed at helping you achieve and supporting that goal. That ensures that you're not wasting time, and you're going to be productive and effective. So we're going to get into it. In this next section, I'm going to dive into the essential elements of the LinkedIn profile. You only have a few seconds to capture someone's attention, and these elements, when combined, are going to shape your personal brand. You need to make sure that they actually align with your goals. So when we look at this slide that I have on at the moment, I hope you're okay with me putting you up there, Selena.
Feel under scrutiny this evening.
You definitely are. But I really do think you are a fantastic example from what I saw online. When someone first looks at your profile, it's actually the visual cues, such as images and pictures, that you can use to convey a message a lot faster than any word can convey a message. Our eyes scan. They're natural scanners, and we swiftly process visuals. What we're looking at the screen at the moment is 3 key elements. So the impact of that profile photo, the impact of your LinkedIn banner, and the impact of that personal headline are often overlooked by a lot of people, and they shouldn't be. So the profile picture, it's not your LinkedIn profile isn't just a snapshot of your skills. It's actually a glimpse of who you want your viewers to see you as, and it's an opportunity for viewers to actually put a face to your name. So you've got to think about what the best word is probably what vibe you actually want to send. So while professionalism is key, it's all about making the right impression. So obviously a smile can make you instantly approachable. A recent photo is always recommended, especially if someone's going to be meeting you in person. And a recommendation as well that I often see is a photo taken against a neutral background. However, a lot of people who write these guidelines are using LinkedIn to find a job. It's like a digital resume essentially for some people. For us, it's not. This is about you using it to boost your own profile and also potentially raise awareness for projects and causes that you are working on. So you don't have to follow these rules if they don't align with your goals. Use a photo that makes you shine for all the right reasons and aligns with what you are trying to achieve. And I think that is a big thing. If everyone on LinkedIn just has all the exact same profile photos, you're not actually going to stand out. So think about who you are and who your target audience is. Which brings me to the next slide, where Selena again was a fantastic example. So the banner image, LinkedIn will put up something boring when you first set up your profile, but you actually have control over that image. And it's an opportunity to convey the identity and to showcase your brand that's going to capture attention with seconds. So looking at the screen, you've got Selena and you have mine. And we come from very different backgrounds, very different organizations, and we have a very different target audience. So it actually makes sense that both of our banners are worlds apart. So looking at Selena's, I loved it when I first saw it, because how powerful is it? It's a picture of a room full of her target audience. So when you go onto Selena's profile, you know that you are looking at the profile of the right person, the person who is going to be able to work with you and absolutely support you. Does anyone have any questions on the image and the banners?
All comments are good.
Yeah, all comments. I will move on to the third one then. So the third one was that headline. So that's the third piece of the puzzle. It's the text that appears directly under your name, and it's also what is seen in search results. So it can impact on whether someone actually chooses to click on your profile. So when you create your LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn will automatically put your job title and company, and that's where a lot of people stop. But there's so much opportunity to place a statement under your name, to communicate beyond a job title, to highlight the actual essence of who you are. So depending on your goals, you might focus on your expertise or what sets you apart, or you may focus on your current role. But this headline is going to shape your identity within a few seconds of someone looking at you. And again, sorry, Selena, you're actually a really good example because you've used your 220 characters wisely. And you've given anyone that views your profile such a quick view on what you do, what you can do, and what your passions are in that small space. And then I've popped a few other examples up there as well. So before I go any further, what I'd like to do, give you all a break from listening to me talking, jump into an activity. So everyone that's listening, what I'd love you to do now is to have a look at your LinkedIn profile, have a look at what your current headline is, and review it. Does it align with what you would like to achieve from LinkedIn? and can you improve it? So I will set my timer for 5 minutes. I don't think we'll need 5 minutes to give you a chance to do that. And then if anyone is wanting feedback, please feel free to share your headline in the chat. And then obviously everyone else on the call could comment as well. But otherwise, just let me know when you're finished so that I know when we can move on. If you're not sure how to edit, when you go onto your profile, has that jumped to my LinkedIn screen now?
Yep, it has. Yep.
Yep, cool, thank you. So when you're in the screen, you'll see these little pencils. When you click on those pencils, they allow you to edit your profile. So this is where you can jump in now, have a look at what your headline is, and potentially make some changes to it. Replied to a few things in the chat, but Bailey, I'm just going to jump off mute quickly to respond to yours. You said when you Google yourself, LinkedIn comes up with a job title, not your headline. It should come up with your headline in Google, but something that we're going to cover off in this section as well is the settings where you can actually control what does come up when people search. So we'll check in there to see if that's potentially why. I'm not too sure, so we'll check that out when we come to it.
I was just having a look at Nathan's one. My current headline is student at University of Sunshine Coast. And I think he could pop something in like student of whatever his discipline is he's studying, or student with a passion for, and putting in some of the areas of your study that you like, or your Enactus experience, like social impact, things that are interesting in the marketplace.
So, Monica, I see that you said you're thinking about changing it to full sentences. So we are restricted to 220 characters. So that's why we really just normally try just to target those keywords so that someone can read it. But what we will look at is the about section shortly, where that's when you can start to expand. So if that's going to so what's also important in your headline and other sections is the keywords. If people are going to search those keywords, it will help you come up. So if you think someone searching for those organisations is going to help you be found, then that can actually be quite powerful as well. Does anyone need more time on this activity, or will we move on to the next part? If you need more time, let me know. Otherwise, I'll assume everyone's ready.
How can I share my headlines?
Sorry?
How can I share my headline? Is there any way I can share to
Oh,
that you can?
In the chat, Gia, if you look at the top, there's a little speech bubble that says chat. If you click on that, it will open, and then you can put it in the chat.
I tried putting it, but it shows that I need more than one people to chat. Let me try it.
Have you got the chat open on the side, Joe?
Yeah, I'm using a phone, so I'm trying to use my laptop to see if it works on laptop. Yeah.
Okay, that may be why.
It's very hard to do this on a phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just read it to us, Jaya. What can you just tell us what your? I'll type it in for you.
Yeah, sure. So mine would be they are scholars and then data science student passionate in machine learning in University of Sydney.
So you're a scholar, passionate about machine learning.
A data science student.
Science student.
Data science, sorry.
Data science. Okay. Now I think, yeah, you've got to turn off your phone now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yep.
There you go. It's come up. Perfect.
Yes. Okay. Let me. Okay, I can type now.
So Danny, this is just a really small thing, and it's not always the case, but with yours, you haven't got spaces between some of the words where you've got regulation and enactus. There's no gap between your forward slash and the words, and not all the time, but often that can impact SEO. A lot of search engines won't recognise the regulation and the enactus. So it's always best practice to make sure you do put a space between your words. It's just one of those small things that sometimes can have a bigger impact than what we're aware of. I'm going to move on to the next section. Let me jump back to the slide deck. Okay, so hopefully we've all got a nice headline to work with now. The next thing that I would like to look at is the about section. So as you can see on my profile, you've got the headline, the banner, the photo, and then if we scroll down, we're now going to look at this about section. So jump back to the slide deck. So the about section is an opportunity for you to essentially tell your story. So this is another place where I always say you can break the rules. So if you're not using LinkedIn to find a job, so it's not your digital resume, you can actually use this space essentially as a digital business card or as a forum to share a message about what you can do. It's a space to showcase your strengths, what your value proposition is, potentially any notable achievements, your future vision, any content really that aligns with your goals. There are no rules here. One thing that is very important is your first two sentences. So you can see from the screenshot I've got of my about section, when someone opens up your profile, they don't actually see all of that about section. They only see two sentences. So if you start off those two sentences with, I am a science student at the University of Queensland, blah, 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 you're missing such a massive opportunity because they already know that. They can see that in your headline. They can, this is an opportunity to really get into something that's going to have an impact and make them click more so that they actually read the rest of it. It's also a space to be strategic with your keywords that are going to ensure that your profile is found by the right audience. So it doesn't need to be professional. You can also inject some authenticity in here because you are a person. You are not just an online professional profile, but obviously only what you are comfortable with sharing. The other tip for this about section is it needs to be reader friendly. People are not going to sit and read big, long paragraphs. So it needs to have lots of white space. Paragraphs should be maximum 2 to 3 sentences, and bullet points need to be short and punchy. I always say no bullet points over about 6 words because then they start to wrap. When text wraps, the human eye stops reading it. We only read those first few words of a bullet point. So it's something to be very mindful of. You've only got a couple of seconds for someone to scan that. When they scan it, they need to get the key messages away. The key messages of what you're trying to get across. When I talk about authenticity and injecting a bit of you as a person in, you can see the example that I've got on the screen. I've got a bit in there that, talks about the fact that I'm a parent of, it touches on the ages of my children, talk about my beautiful Cocker Spaniel and my gorgeous cats that I have, and my love of things like tennis and Pilates, etc. So those snippets are incredibly powerful because often someone might read that and then they go, oh, I play tennis too. And suddenly when we're talking, we have a conversation starter, or it might be that the type of dogs that I have or something else. So if you have a specialty where you play a musical instrument or you've got some hobby, I really encourage you to feel comfortable to share that on your LinkedIn profile because the impact on your networking and your ability to build that credibility and relationship with someone online is massively increased. What I'd like to do, another activity, so again, it's not just listening to me talking. I would like to give you a chance to have a look at the About section if you already have one written, and review it based on what are your goals, what do you want to achieve, and if you don't have one, have a go at writing one. And again, like I said before, if you're comfortable, share that in the chat so that we can all have a look at it and potentially give you some feedback. There is some people, I don't have it yet, but LinkedIn are actually rolling out an AI that will help you build that About section. So if when you go into it, you have that available, make the most of it. If not, do what I did, jump into ChatGPT and get some help crafting it, and then obviously add your own touches to it. So I will stop talking and give you all some time. Bailey has said that he can't hear me. Is anyone else having difficulty hearing me?
I've been able to hear you, Bailey. Maybe you need to pop out and pop back in again.
Thanks, Zaya, for already sharing.
And Callan's asked if he can have a copy of the slides, and Carolyn has said yes, and we will be sharing the slides after this session.
So Zaya, thank you so much for sharing yours. I've just read through it, and it's really well written and it's great. My only add-on I would suggest, and I don't know what your goals are with your LinkedIn profile, but it's also a section to talk about what you could potentially offer to someone else if they connected to you. What is it that you may be able to provide them with, or what could your value add be? But again, that comes down to what your goals are. So I'll leave that one with you. Yeah, that's really good, Callan.
I like the way you reverse that, Callan. I think you should there's a couple of little niggly grammar issues in there, but maybe you can just run it through a grammar check in Word and then pop it back up again.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah. I know we're doing this very fast, but I really like it. I'd like to see
Yeah.
you polish it up.
Yeah. No worries.
So Zaya, I'll try to find a way to weave that goal into what you've written. So you've said you'd like to start sharing more strategy and leadership content. So it's not essential, but I would consider in that about section touching on that. So, using I don't know, I've got to try and think on the spot right now of what I would write. It wouldn't always work, but something about my goal is to take my knowledge around strategy and leadership to help support my connections or whatever it might be. But there might be a way we can weave that in so that someone reads and they go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, this person can definitely add value to my network and what I want to achieve.
Thanks for that feedback.
Does anyone need more time to go through their about section? Take the silence as no, which means we're okay to move on to the next slides. So the next part that we're going to look at, I'll quickly jump onto my profile again, is the next part, which is this experience section. So when we look at this section, what I often see is, and it's a natural go-to, is people treating that like their resume, even if they have different goals. I've sat with people and they've spoken about, this is what I really want to achieve from my LinkedIn profile, and they go and do their about and everything else. And then when I get down to this bit, it's literally a copy and paste of their job description, or it's the work that they did in a cafe, or which is important if that's what your goal is, to find work, but it can potentially be a missed opportunity. So you don't have to talk about your day-to-day employment in this area. You can actually use this space to highlight your accomplishments like there, or what you've achieved. If you have a project that you're working on that you want to make people more aware of, you can add it into this section. It doesn't strictly have to be employment, if that makes sense. But it is a smaller space, so it's not really the place for big, long paragraphs. It's a place for short, meaningful sentences that talk about what you can do, or how you can add value, or to potentially highlight the projects that you are working on. So there, maybe this is where you could talk about, part of what you do is share content on strategy and leadership. Maybe that's where you could weave it in. What also you don't want to do is just have the same text across different jobs. So each area just needs to be unique, or you just have it under one role. And don't be concerned, it's not critical. You don't need to, if you haven't got a lot of work under your belt, it's not essential to try to convey that you have. It's not what people are looking at. They're looking at the content of what you've written and what and how you can assist them, or what and how they can assist you. So the next part that I would like to touch on, I would just scroll down on my profile quickly to show you. Right down the bottom where we have these recommendations. So essentially a digital review on you, and what you can achieve. So, recommendations are essentially a testimonial on LinkedIn that validate your skills and experience. They give you that credibility that we spoke about at the beginning of the session, and they can be used to give insight into your capabilities. But you can actually control the narrative within those recommendations. So first of all, to ask for a recommendation, you need to be a first-degree connection with someone. And then you go to this plus sign and you say, ask for a recommendation. Just as an example, I'm going to showcase you, Selena, select you because I am connected with you. So you enter the name of the person that you're going to ask for a recommendation. So let's select Selena. Then it's going to ask me how I know Selena, what our relationship is. So I've got a few options that I need to choose, and it's going to take this information off my profile. So you need to have your profile set up before you can do this. I'm just going to select some random things here. Now, this is the key part where it says, hi, Selena, would you write me a recommendation, please? If I send that off to Selena, Selena might write me a recommendation, but I don't know. I don't have any control over what she's necessarily going to say. Selena might write me a recommendation saying, well, you know, she likes to be called Kaz and she's got a Cocker Spaniel. It doesn't achieve my goals. So this section is where you can actually guide the person by outlining any specific skills or projects that you want highlighted. So I would say, hi, Selena, I'd love if you could write me a recommendation. Remember when I presented to your Enactus group on building brand and profile and influencing? I would really love it if you could give me a recommendation based around that, highlighting my presentation skills, etc. And then suddenly on my LinkedIn profile, I have recommendations that support what I want to achieve. And there's more chance of someone actually writing your recommendation if you make it easy for them. But people want a bit of guidance, otherwise they sit there and get a bit nervous. So I did that with the recommendations that you can see on the screen here. I reached out to our marketing and also one of our directors, and I asked them to talk about how I support our clients with developing strategies for them, because that is my stakeholder, and that's how I could get the most from that. So just go back onto slide deck. So another activity, and I promise this is the last one, but I think it's important to do. What I'd like you to do is take a moment to craft a recommendation request. So one is that you can put in the message about what you would like the recommendation to be about, or what the focus is going to be. So you can either do this now and send it off to someone who you want a recommendation from, or happy for you just to craft it so you've got it ready to go at a later stage if you're not ready to send it yet. And again, like before, would love it if you pop it in the chat so that we could see those recommendations and provide feedback if needed. Does anyone have any questions on this exercise before we start? Cool. Bailey, I just read what you had put into the group as well for your About section, and there's just so much authenticity in that. It talks about what you do and who you are, and also present you as a person as well, which, you know, brings together everything that I've tried to say in this session so far. So absolutely well done.
I've had to go and Google a few things that Bailey's written down. I've learnt from Bailey's profile statement. It's great.
And that's great, right? That it actually inspired you to do that, because it's really, the way it's written is really powerful.
I think like statements like this really are a bit like a magnet, because you know, if they teach you something, they're memorable. So I think that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Callan, please pop it up.
Yeah, because I recently asked a previous colleague for a request. I'm happy to share my screen if you want. I mean, I'll just also. So is that fine, Caroline?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Go
Yep.
for
I'll
it.
just.
And whilst you're fiddling with the technology, I'll just I recently asked someone for a recommendation, and he said, I don't write recommendations unless you write one for me first. And I thought that was a really interesting statement, because it's a reciprocal process. So, you know, you're asking me to spend some time for you. I want you to spend some time for me. And I thought after that, well, you actually can write people recommendations without them requesting them. And then, you know, hit them up a few weeks later for one from you, if that's the way you'd like to look at it.
Traffic jam.
Yes, a couple of weeks ago, or probably a couple of years ago, actually, John was one of my mentors who I seeked out on LinkedIn, and obviously, so yes, with the recommendations, one thing I've done is also reach out to anyone who's taught you, coached you, or mentored you, just because for me, it demonstrates a willingness to be coachable and to adapt into a changing environment. So just something I always do. So just think about that, and also try and when I request a recommendation, I always try to highlight what skills, what have I learned from that experience that can benefit the next group of people I work with, and how to just enhance their learning journey. So just something I always think about, guys. So yeah.
And just looking at these, they're really powerful as well, and you can get such a good picture of who you are and what you can do. So thank you for sharing. I think that's a fantastic demonstration of the power of these recommendations.
Yep.
And Selena, what you said as well, like, offer to reciprocate, write me one and I'll write you one.
Yeah. And I always find it really good when people do send me a few dot points, just because I get asked a lot, and I deal with about 400 new people a year, and really your brain's only good at 150 max. So it's a good reminder to provide some context if you haven't seen someone for a while, or they deal with a lot of people. Yeah, absolutely. And take control of the narrative. Don't just leave it up to Selena.
she may not remember or be aligned with what your goals are either. So how are we all going? Do people want more time to work on a recommendation request, or are we ready to move on to the next part?
It would be great to see, I have a couple of people pop what their request would sound like in the chat. Was anyone happy to share a recommendation request in the chat?
I might have exhausted everyone with these activities.
I'll just do one that I'm looking to join. Please excuse my spelling. But I'll show you, this is what sort of thing I'd send to someone like Carolyn, sorry. So I've given her also some broader context of why I'm asking for a recommendation. And I might think that it's really important for people to understand that I've got experience in community development, but Carolyn might also want to note that I've got a superpower in negotiation or something that I haven't identified, but she has. So that leaves it open, but it also helps that person target and contextualize what they're going to say.
Thank you so much for sharing. Wait for my recommendation request. Okay, let's move forward on this one. So this is something I touched on a bit earlier, and that's whether or not your profile is actually visible. So you're going to go to all this effort of creating a profile, and then you need to actually make sure that it can be found. And LinkedIn actually provide a lot of customization for you to set yourself up with levels of privacy that you are that you're actually comfortable with, and to change how you come up in searches. So when I click on my profile, go back up to the top, on the right hand side, so you can get into it by going on the picture of your icon, and if you go down to settings and privacy, or where it says public profile on URL, you can just click on that pencil and it takes you in, and from this screen it will actually show you what you look like if someone who isn't connected to you searches your profile or comes across your profile, but it's depending on how you set it. So on the right hand side is where all the settings are. So is my profile publicly visible? Yes, it is. I've got that ticked. And then I've customized exactly what I want. So I can say talk about with my photo, who can actually see it. I said that anyone public domain, my photo will come up in Google. And then here, it's what else will come up if they search me in Google. So they can see my background photo, my headline, my summary. So this is the question earlier. I was wondering if maybe that headline was hidden, and maybe that's why it was coming up with a job title. I wasn't too sure. I do have my articles hidden because I want someone to actually connect with me if they want to see what I've written.
Should you be sharing your screen at the moment?
Oh, can you not see it?
No, sorry. I think because you took it off so Callum could share.
Yeah.
I'm glad you told me. We could have gone on for a long time where you couldn't see what I was doing.
That's okay. I was like, I want to see if this is done.
Let me go back a bit. So okay, so you should be seeing my screen now. Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. So what I did from this screen, you can either go to the Me, where the photo is at the top, and go into your privacy settings, or you can click on the public profile and URL pencil, which brings you to this screen, which is what you didn't see before. Shows you what your profile looks like to the public. On the right-hand side is where you can edit the visibility. So you can see that I have mine turned on for public visibility. And then when I go down, I've chosen that my photo can be seen by anyone. I could say that only my first degree connections or people within my network could see it. And then this is the part where you can customize what people can see, obviously dependent on your comfort level. But think about your goal. Are you trying to attract people that may not already know who you are? If that is the case, what do they need to be able to see when they search you in Google, or what do they need to be able to see when they first click on your profile without being connected to you within LinkedIn? So this is where I was showing that you guys can see I've got headlines selected, background photo, experience, but I don't have everything selected. I'm not giving them everything about me, but that's my choice, and that's aligned with my goal. So I think that's one of the critical bits, is to make sure that you can actually be found. So does anyone have any questions on setting your privacy settings?
That's great. I feel I've never looked at them. I didn't know they existed, so I'm going to go and check mine now.
So
Yeah,
yes, Caroline, just a quick. Can we just customize it so certain aspects of our profile appear first? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So it's not what appears first. It's what appears depending on how someone is connected to you.
Okay.
So it's basically saying if someone, so you can hide your profile so that if someone searches you in Google, your LinkedIn profile doesn't come up. Or you can set it so that if someone is searching within LinkedIn, that they might only be able to see your name, and they can't see your headline or your photo. And to be honest, when most people first sign up for LinkedIn and start creating their profile, they usually set the privacy, lock it all down so people can't actually view them. So it's good to go back in and check it. So Bailey, there's more than one way to get there. I'll just quickly show you on the screen again. So I'm on my profile page here. And from my profile page, so if you click on your profile page, on the right-hand side, there's a box that says public profile and URL. So that's the quickest way to get into that section. And the other thing that you can do in here, while I'm in here, I can show you as well, is you can customize your URL. So you can see at the top, I've customized mine, so it's linkedin.com.in, Carolyn Moore. When you create an account, that will just letters and numbers. It's much easier to share your profile if it is a URL that has your name, or as close to your name if someone else hasn't already claimed it. Hi, Aaron. Okay. So any other questions on setting your settings, or will I'll move on? Cool. So that concludes the first part that I wanted to talk about, and that is actually setting up your profile. What I'm going to provide you with after this session is this checklist that I have on the screen now. This is something that will prompt you to go through all of these steps, your headline, your about section, showcasing your work, set privacy settings, so that you can make sure that you can get it done. You don't have to remember everything.
Caroline, you're muted and we can't hear you. And your screen has stopped. The screen is still sharing, but we can't hear you.
Okay, sorry, I was muted. When did I stop talking?
You're halfway through that checklist, so maybe if we could go back to the checklist.
Okay, cool. So with the checklist, I was saying that will be shared with you after this session. It is a prompt for you to go through all of the key elements that you need. So I've covered off things that I think are really important, but there's probably a few other smaller items that you could go through depending on your goals. This checklist is just a really nice, easy one that I encourage you to do after this training session. And then what we're going to move on to now is connections. So there's 3 parts to developing a brand using LinkedIn. The first one is your profile. The next one is your connections, and you need them all set up before we get to the third step, which is the sharing of content or creating content. So building a network on LinkedIn is the absolute cornerstone of your success. It operates on the strength of your first, second, and third degree connections. So it is essential to connect with the right people. It's not about quantity. It is absolutely about quality of who you connect with. So I always suggest when you are deciding to connect with someone to ask yourself these questions. It's not about having 2,000 connections, because that's just going to create noise if those people that you're connected to have no interest in what you're sharing and they're not actually contributing to what you're sharing or to your network. LinkedIn does have a baseline of 500. Once you hit 500 connections, it stops showing how many you have. So that's considered a level of professionalism. But again, I don't follow these rules that LinkedIn sets. You should only have the connections and the number of connections that are going to help you achieve your goals. So these are the set of questions to ask yourself when you're thinking about who you should connect with. And then the next step, obviously, is engaging with your connections. So if someone knows you, so Selena, I had a meeting with her, so I just sent off a connection request. I didn't add anything to it. Maybe a bit lazy on my part. But if you're sending connection requests, especially to people that you don't know or may not know the purpose or why they should connect with you, it can be really powerful to personalize that message, whether it be talking about a shared interest or a mutual connection, or specifying what the actual reason is. It's going to help someone make a decision, and it also starts to build that brand and relationship already from that initial request. So it's a golden opportunity to start to initiate some potential collaboration. So on this slide, I've just got some examples that I put together. So hi Mandy, I've seen your posts and noticed some of your work. As a fellow advocate for a greener future, I'd really appreciate your perspectives and would love to connect. But then what happens is when you send that connection request, you will then receive a notification to say that that person has accepted it, and that can then be your prompt for your next activity to reach out again. So then the second example is, hi, thanks for accepting my request. I think our connection could lead to meaningful collaboration. Here's a link to my recent post or my recent article about the current project I'm working on. Would love to get your views or opinion on it. So these are just examples, but these are really powerful opportunities for you. If you are wanting to build awareness around a project that you're working on, or if you've written articles and you want people to read them, don't wait for them to go onto your profile and find them. You can be really proactive and use these connection messages to make that happen. So any questions on that so far? Cool. So what I want to show you now is how you can find the right connections. So I'm going to go through a few slides, but then I'll actually jump onto my profile and I'll show you how this is done. So one of the first things is when someone accepts your connection, when you get a connection request and you accept it, LinkedIn will then provide a bunch of connections, their connections that might also be of interest to you. So that's a really good way to find people that you may not have realized could potentially benefit your network. LinkedIn also provides a whole host of recommendations based on how your profile is set up, based on which university you go to, where you work, skills and keywords that you have entered. Another powerful thing is you can actually sync your inbox, whether it's Outlook or Gmail, and I'll show you how to do all of this in a moment. So what syncing that would do is it will go through all of the contacts that you have, all the people you've received emails from and sent them from. It will then come up and try to match those email addresses to LinkedIn accounts, which then enables you to quickly send off invitations to those people. So it's something I probably should do often, about every 6 months, just as a prompt of, oh, these are people that I probably should have connected to. And then another way to find really valuable connections is if you're posting and people are commenting and liking, going through those comments and likes and seeing who you're not connected to and adding them to your network as well. And then the third one is if you've got particular companies that you're wanting to network with or meet people from, you can actually go through the people that are attached onto that company page. And then the connections is one that I'll demonstrate to you as well. So I work in sales. So when I'm training most of our consultants, I advise them to hide their connections, which is something you can do in those privacy settings. But if it can benefit you to have other people seeing who you're connected to, you can leave them open, and you can actually take advantage of other people's connections by going into them. So I'm going to quickly run you through all of that now to show you how easy it is. So the place that you start on your profile is if you click on my, this is obviously where you'd go in if someone has sent you a connection request. And if you accept it, I don't have any to accept at the moment, unfortunately, but it would come up with suggestions that they're also connected to, so people that we potentially may have in common. Hopefully this will load. Now's not the time to get a slow network. No. Okay, so this is where LinkedIn provides really powerful recommendations based on how you set up your profile. So at the top, we're seeing people from Randstad. That's obviously the company that I work with. So I do on a regular basis come through and connect so that I can pick up anyone new that has started within my business. My stakeholders are internal. So that for me is powerful because it means that when someone starts with our business, they get a request from me, they look on my profile, they know who I am, and then the first time that they start, that they'll meet me during training or whatever it be, they have an idea of who I am and what my background is. So as you go through, really easy starting place to find people based on where you're starting or the industry that you set up against. I always like these top emerging creators. These are people that are posting and writing articles. Find that they're often really interesting people to start to follow. Other thing you can do, so on LinkedIn, you can connect with someone and someone needs to accept that request, or you can actually just follow people. So if I go into the people that I'm following, you can also see who is following you. And I find that's also worthwhile going through because if following you, there's a chance that there's someone that you actually want within your network. So there's two tabs at the top, following and followers. So I often go into this followers section and have a look to see if there's anyone in there. Look like, oh, there's a few that I'm not following. Then I'll have a look at these people and make a decision about whether or not I'm going to follow them. There we go. Done. So nice and easy. And then the next one I want to show you is where you can link your inbox, which is really helpful as well. So if I go back to the initial screen where I was, there's below followers, there's a tab there for contacts. If you go into contacts, so here we are, the contacts. When you go in there, that's when you can attach your inbox. Being a little bit slow for me at the moment, unfortunately. Give that another go.
Oh, you've broken the internet, Carolyn.
Happens all the time. I have too many tabs open and move around too many screens, and it just goes that and done. So yeah, if you jump in contacts, not going to let me, so I might have to let you take my word for it. Potentially do it yourself on your profile. Go into your contacts. You'll see an option there to upload contacts. So here we go. So mine's already connected. You should come up with a screen that says add contact, and it'll say from Outlook or whatever inbox it is that you can then connect to. So there are a few ways. There's other ways to be more strategic. So, and that's if you have target companies that you know that you want to work with, or you want them to know who you are, what your message is, or what your project is, go to that company page. I'm really hoping that the internet does not let me down. So if I go to Enactus as an example, so when you set up your profile, when you attach yourself to a company, when someone goes to that company page, they can then see that you are attached to that company. So what I'm doing is exactly that. I'm going to go into this company page, and then once I'm looking at the people that are attached to this company page, if there are a lot, you can actually filter down by who you're not already connected to. So on the tab here, I'm going to click on people, or you can put in keywords like sustainability and just start finding people that have keywords that are going to match the connections that you're hoping to make. Hopefully this is going to, here we go. So you can see that here a list of all the people that are connected to this company page. So if I scroll along, there's different options. So you can select people by what they do, what they're skilled at, what they study, where they live, or how they're connected to you. So I'm looking for people that I'm not already connected to. So I would click on that second and third connection, and then that will automatically update. And then what I would do is then I would probably maybe select people living in Australia, or choose people based on keywords. So if I wanted to type in sustainability or something here, it would then filter those people down. Any questions on that one? Sorry, that was a bit delayed and slow. The next one, which I think is really good, and this is the one you can go into other people's connections. So if you find someone who is really aligned with what your goals and you think their connections that can add value to your network, go onto their profile page, and if that's not hidden their connections, then you can easily go through them. So Mel is a colleague of mine, and I know that she doesn't have her connections hidden. So when I look at her profile page, it's going to come up here and tell me that she's got 500 plus connections. And when I click through to that, I will see all of her connections. And what's going to happen is at the top, a new menu is going to appear that actually allows me to then filter her connection. So I can do the same thing as I did on the company page. I can filter them by companies that they work for, where they're located, whether or not I'm already connected to them. So I can really quickly just target and connect with the people that I want. So this is the additional menu that's opened up here on the top. So I click on all filters. I won't do it because it's going a bit slow, but I could choose just to look at the second and third connections of Mel. I could choose people within a particular location or particular subjects, companies, etc. Loads of options, and then I would be able to go through and start connecting with them. So all of these things that I've just demonstrated are techniques to make it easy for you to find the right connections that you need before you start posting and sharing information. So does anyone have any questions on finding the right connections? Okay, so then we're on to the third step. So the third step is where you start to share insights and showcase your expertise. So we're going to now look at the way that you can actually enhance your LinkedIn presence to start making it working for you. So sharing relevant content, engaging with your connections, and then actually getting engagement back from your connections as well. So as we go through this, what's important is that you're strategic and you're goal-driven. So what do you want to achieve from your LinkedIn profile? How can you add value to your connections? And then that's going to drive what you share and how you share it. So again, with this, be authentic. Everything doesn't need to be professional or goal-driven. You can mix it up a bit. You can show photos from events or that show who you are as a person, because that's equally engaging. There are things that you can do that are going to have a bigger impact. So I always call this breaking LinkedIn's algorithm. So I actually have a colleague of mine who went through all of the things that you can do to make the most of LinkedIn's algorithms, and he was able to boost his engagement by 400%. And some of those things he did was breaking the rules essentially as well. So if you're going to be posting and you're going to be sharing and you're going to be commenting, there's things you can do that mean that you're going to be seen by more people. Things such as commenting. So often people would like and then comment. You're actually better off to comment before you like. And then timing is crucial. So you've got about an hour, and if your post hasn't taken off in that hour, it's probably not going to. So you want to know who your target is and when are they going to be online. So lunch breaks, times when they're commuting, and times when they're going to be stopping to browse can make a huge impact. LinkedIn likes it if your posts are not just engaging, but they're varied. So if you mix up sharing articles, writing articles, posting polls, using attention-grabbing images, you're going to start to be seen by more people. As I said, don't forget to put the personal touch in there. The colleague that I told you about that boosted his engagement by 400%, one of his most successful posts was one that he put up about taking his daughters to the Harry Styles concert. He actually got the most comments, and he got about 3 calls. So he's in sales from people who he had been trying to talk to for a really long time, and they weren't interested. They saw the post, they could relate, they were going to the concert, they wanted tips and advice on, who was performing first, etc. So an absolute success story. So it's probably about finding that balance. Always tag other people in your posts, comment on other people's posts, use hashtags, because it's all going to help your visibility. And one of the big things with LinkedIn algorithms is consistency. So if you go on and you post something tonight, but then you don't post for 2 weeks, it's really not going to help you stay visible. But if you decide that you're going to post every Tuesday and Thursday, that consistency gets picked up by the algorithm, and it means that you're going to see more people as well. And I like what Callan has also put in there. If you're the first person to comment, you'll always be at the top of that comment thread. And I also like as well that if you comment first, someone else isn't going to steal what you wanted to say as well, or you're not just looking like you're duplicating them. So I 100% agree with that one. So I'm just going to go through some examples of things that might inspire you that you could think about that you can share on LinkedIn. So essentially it is a canvas to tell your story, and it's a way of attracting people so that they can actually relate to you and to your vision. So the examples that I've got on the screen, I think are just really good examples. Sorry, Selena, you're up there again. And sharing enough just company updates as well. That's a really nice, easy one. When you see something come up on that company page, it actually highlights your involvement with Enactus, as well as giving your network further information as well. So a further boost. Sorry, Selena, did you want to say something then?
Yeah, just on the
Yep.
on the right hand side, the company update where we're talking about Startup Muster. So this wasn't a particularly positive post that I made. I was being a little bit critical of the Startup Muster guys, which is a bit brave, so but constructive, because they don't recognise social startups in their startup surveys. Anyway, it's ended up with me now being on an advisory panel for their next muster and doing an interview this Friday at UTS with the head of startups. So having an opinion is sometimes a good thing on LinkedIn, but if you're going to be critical, you have to back it up with fact and also be constructive.
Absolutely. Fantastic outcome and such a good example. Yeah, love it. Thank you so much, Selena. So absolutely, have an opinion, as you say, back it up if you're going to have an opinion. But yeah, sometimes the posts that you don't expect to have great outcomes absolutely can have the best outcomes. An effective strategy is, as I've already said, to regularly post, but make sure that they're relevant, the articles and blogs that you are sharing. And when you do share, it's so important to provide some commentary and insights, as you know, Selena just said. It showcases your expertise, but it also encourages meaningful conversation. And from what I've seen, more often than not, your connections don't even often click on the articles you're sharing because they're reading your commentary and insights, and that's often enough for what they're potentially looking for. So something else that I wanted to mention as well is feature articles on your profile page. So not everyone's always on LinkedIn. They're not always sitting there ready to see your posts at lunchtime. And you don't want what you are sharing that's intended to build your profile to be lost. So what you can do is, and hopefully my profile page is going to work for me. Let me go back into this section. Doing a bit of, hopefully this will work. So you can actually customize what your profile page looks like. You can add in different sections, and I have the section added for my activity. So anyone who comes to look at my profile page can see what I've commented, what I've said, and then I also have featured articles. So they're articles that I've written that I have there. So my theory is I only need to write 4 articles that talk to my target audience. I don't need to write any more because they're featured on my profile page. When anyone looks at my profile page, that's exactly what they're going to see. Unfortunately, it looks like it's come up and it's LinkedIn's not playing sport with me today, but so it looks like it's all happening. And pinning articles as well and content, they don't need to be your articles, they can be other articles of interest. They add more value to your profile as well. So this is where I've got the featured section. I can easily add and pin articles to this. And the way that you do it is when you're on your profile page, there's this option here to add profile section. So if you wanted to add test scores, languages, organisations, causes, publications, and as I said, that featured page you can, or if you want things hidden and not showing on your page, you can do that as well. Everything can be customized, which is one thing I love about LinkedIn with how your page looks and your privacy and security settings. But that's something I highly recommend because it means that people don't need to be online when you're posting to still understand what your brand is and the message that you are trying to share. Interacting is so important. So if you are networking and you've connected with people and you see them put up a post, take the time to just stop and make a comment or ask them an insightful question or share your perspective, because that actually shows your active involvement and adds value to your connections as well. So you do that with any industry leaders or experts, and also with your peers, people that are on this call that hopefully you'll all connect with. If you see them doing something, jump on, add some content, add some value. And then obviously on the right hand side is if you want to, consider writing your own articles to share your expertise and insights or your unique perspectives. I think LinkedIn is such a great vehicle for you to write articles that are going to inspire or educate others in your network. But obviously it's not for everyone, but I think it can add a lot of value. And then the authenticity, which I've touched on a few times, and like the example I shared with my colleague, don't be afraid to share the occasional post about aspects in your life if you go to an event or if something, big is happening in your life. Everything doesn't have to align perfectly with your goals, but showing a bit of authenticity still does align with your goals because it shows you on that deeper level that allows people to connect with you. And that's another thing where it's breaking the rules with LinkedIn. It's not Facebook, it's not a social media site, but in a way it is. So I encourage you to absolutely make the most of that. So that brings us to the conclusion of this session. But what I'd like to quickly go through is the key takeaways, and that is that your digital brand holds so much potential for you. It allows you to connect with your audience, cultivate meaningful relationships, find potential collaborators and supporters, and to amplify your influence or any causes that are close to your heart. And it's a platform to potentially show valuable content as well. Just realised my takeaways haven't come up. And the other thing that I mentioned at the beginning, and I think this is also really important, although you're online, remember to be mindful of yourself and your mental health. Stay authentic to who you are and understand that you cannot control what others say and do, but what you can do is control how you react to that, and obviously seek support or take a break if you need to. Your online presence is yours, and it is a powerful tool, and I strongly encourage you to use it strategically and spend the time that it needs to make a positive impact on the journey that you're taking. As next steps following this, I'm going to share the presentation with you. You're going to get a copy of this checklist. So once you have finalized your profile and you're really happy with it, an exercise that I often do with my colleagues is I ask them to show their profile to someone, a family, a friend, could be anyone, and only give them 10 seconds to look at it. And then afterwards say, okay, now you've looked at my profile, I want you to tell me, who am I, what do I do, and what is my unique value or offering? And pay close attention to their response, because if they didn't catch the messaging that you want them to, it's not them getting it wrong. It's actually a sign that you need to tweak your profile. So pay attention to what information they take and where that information can be found on your profile. And then what you could do to make sure that you improve that perception to align it with what your goals are. Once you've done that, that's when you can go to that next step that we were just talking about, where you start connecting with everyone, because when you start connecting, that's when people are going to look at your profile. And then obviously, once you are connected, that's when you can start to look at posting and sharing. It can be daunting sometimes to post. So I don't know if there's anyone on here that is a bit reluctant or nervous about that first post. If you are, I encourage you to set a deadline for yourself for the first time that you are going to put a post up. It does get much, much easier as you go. And then if you're interested in really, making a big impact with your profile and influencing and using LinkedIn, there is something that is called a social selling index. So the social selling index is a free tool by LinkedIn that measures what your impact is from your activities. So if I click on get your score, my score is not particularly high. Haven't been active on LinkedIn lately, but this could be a benchmark for you. if you have a look at what your score is today, and then start your journey of posting, sharing, connecting, and see what impact that has on your score. My score's not coming up at the moment. I was hoping, yep, it's come up. So what this essentially means is the higher your score, the more influence you have with LinkedIn's algorithms. So your score is going to be based on, are you commenting? Are you connecting? Are you sharing? How often are you looking? It's not everything, and it's not perfect depending on what your goals are, but it can be a good benchmark to give you feedback on what you're doing and is it having any impact and is it helping you to achieve your goals. So we'll share a link for that, or you can just put into Google social selling index and this page will come up for you, and it's free for anyone to use and to measure. And that's the one where my colleague was able to see that he had the 400% engagement by making the changes that he did. So as a wrap up, I just want to extend my thanks to everyone for joining this session and for engaging in the chat. It makes it so much more pleasurable when we're all working together and helping each other out. So thanks once again, and happy networking, everyone.
Thanks, Carolyn. That was fantastic. And we'll be sharing the resources with the students and our other members. I just wanted to also highlight that LinkedIn has a not-for-profit set of resources as well. So for those of you who are looking at setting up something to promote your project, your impact project, there's some really good resources there on communicating impact effectively through LinkedIn. Carolyn, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening for helping us today. We're getting a few big thank yous in the chat, and if anyone has any questions, they could probably send them to me and I can sort of aggregate them and let you know. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And thanks, Tina, for staying up late tonight and making sure that the meeting runs properly. As we said, Teams is always a bit of a unstable platform, and you've managed to make it work tonight. Great. There you go. Nathan's giving you a good thank you there.
Thanks, Nathan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, bedtime, guys. We'll see you out in the ether at another point.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Night.